Good to see you.
Very happy to meet you again.
Yes.
You have been working in Schneider for 17 years, right?
Yes.
You started
7
in
years already.
Taiwan.
Yeah.
And then from Taiwan, you moved to Melton, China, and then you work in Melton, China for many years.
Yes.
In different functions.
Yes.
And now you have been assuming the global role in the past, 3 years, 4
Yes.
years, going to different countries,
Yes.
right? So maybe you can share with us, moving from Schneider, Taiwan to China. Did you have to make any adjustment? And also maybe explain to us why Schneider wanted to expand into China at that time. And then what's the development stages like, since then?
I am very lucky to join the journey of how Schneider explored the China business opportunity. For us as doing the global business, like entering into different geography where we all take some approach. The first approach we started normally what we call be paid. BEPAID, right? The first thing is about the B is for business, right? So it's more about you have a business over there. Sometimes you follow the business, go to that geography, go to start the selling office over there. That was happening in Schneider, China, probably 30 years ago. We also see the opportunity over there. So we have some distributors, some agent, we start to sell in that place. And the second thing we call is the E for expands. So once you started to do some business over there, you're gonna figure out, okay, maybe the expense have some more chance to be optimized. So that is the case, you're gonna have some local engineering team, the local marketing team, trying to be able to really have a better optimized expense structure to better selling, right? Then the P is for the profit. After you optimize the expense, you're gonna figure out you want to have a strong positioning over there. So that means you need to have a marketing positioning, the pricing premium over there. So now it's about the case, how you really make the end-to-end ecosystem being really influenced by your thought leadership, by your lot of elements. That is called P. Then you will go to the next phase because the A is for the asset, right? You probably decide in some geography, maybe you feel in that market, it deserves you to really put the asset on it. Asset means your supply chain, your factory. So that is go to the next level of the entry to geography. Then the next one is we call the I. I is for the innovation. So for some geography, you realize, okay, not only I want to leverage the manufacturing goods, I also want to leverage the people over there to do the innovation job inside the country and also supply outside the country. Then we start to deploy this kind of innovation stuff. And then for sure, there's a D for the depth. It's how you leverage the financial mechanism over there to close loop locally. So coming back, how I perceive joining the Schneider China, I think I was in the journey probably around the A and I portion, more about finish the factory or completing the factory, start the journey to ramp up the China for China, then the China for global innovation. So that was the 10 years I was in China to really witness how China's hub grow and become stronger in that given 10 years.
So it's the A and I stage that you were in.
Yes.
What were you doing there? You started as the business person?
Yes. I was starting to do the marketing job. Then I take the full P&L for some division over there. And for sure, because in Schneider China, as a P&L leaders, we have a more delegation regarding the China for China offer development. So we started to put the offer requirement of the China for China offer. So we start to also touch a little bit the innovation side before my current assignment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. It's called Be Paid, right? So do you think this Be Paid model can apply to other companies too?
I would not put that as a model to be so easy to duplicate, but I think that is going to be the right question to be asked when you enter into a new geography, right? So it's a little bit difficult for people without having the business just directly invest the asset, right? So it's probably the sequence you need to ask yourself, and maybe depends on the circumstances, you will decide you want to rush for the BEP at the same time, or you want to just start the B first and observe and to incrementally move forward with.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of foreign investment in China or foreign enterprises in China. What are the benefits or what are the advantages and what are the costs or the risk that multinational company has to bear when enter the China market based on the experience? Could you maybe tell us one or two?
I think the biggest chance in China's supply chain is so far, I think China's supply chain speed, the comprehensiveness, even the readiness of they call the OEM, right, the manufacturing machine. It's really end-to-end ready. Then Also from supply chains, probably the infrastructure in China is pretty solid. So if you look at all those elements, that means China is a good place. You manufacture something and you can leverage then go outside the China. There used to be the labor cost, but no longer anymore. So that is probably the portion of the leverage China to go outside China. But China, at the other hand, is also one of the largest economy in the world. So there's also a big volume, big need, and it's one single big market rather than a scattered, diffuse. Like Southeast Asia, like I always like to say, it's a big revenue, but it's probably tons of the business over there. They all have a different nature over there. But in China, it's definitely a big business. So you have a brand reputation impact in one region, probably it's very easy to be leveraged in another region. So with that big scale, that means either you choose your strategy in a scale effect or scope effect. For scope effect, a lot of the segmentation, which is not available in other geography, but it exists in China. But for the scale effect, for sure, it's a very large market, so you have a lot of things to work with. So that's probably I would say, the beautiful portion of China regarding the market side and the supply side. For the foreigner to enter into the Chinese market, you need to understand, at least for myself, first, we need to understand 1/3 of the economy or more than 1/3 is driven by the state-owned enterprise. Then state-owned enterprise is very unique segment. They have a very different philosophy than the normal private company, right? So if you want to deal with the business with them, you need to really understand them. And you need to really put yourself on their shoes. That's probably the first thing that could be a potential trapping point. So the second thing is probably in China, the way to drive the resale is really based on quick learn by doing iteration. So that is probably sometimes from cultural adaptation aspect. You cannot underestimate the time you have to spend to really ensure this mechanism can really run seamlessly as you expect it.
There are some challenges, right? So for the foreign enterprise to enter China, maybe you can share, what are the challenges? How do you overcome them?
I think first of all, there are probably more than 1/3 of the economy are driven by the state-owned enterprise. The state-owned enterprise have their own specific legacy and the system they're working behind. As a foreign company, you really need to adapt yourself so you can really generate the intimacy and influence with the state-owned enterprise. The second challenge probably, this is a market, everybody is learn by doing very fast. So that means you are in a competitive environment. Your competitors will move super fast. So how do you ensure you keep your competitive advantage at all time? This is probably another bigger challenge. Regarding how to overcome them, I think for the second one, it's much more important to have a customer-centric organization. If you can have an organization, the voice of the customer can always be seamlessly relayed by your sales team to end-to-end to your manufacturing or R&D. I think this will help a lot to ensure you keep the pace with the competition locally. If you ask me what is the unique strengths of the Schneider Electric China, I think this is for sure our number one differentiating point. We are really an united end-to-end organization, keep open listening to the customer and keep trying to adapt ourselves so our speed can be pretty fast to ensure we can react to different customer needs. And for the first challenge about we call the state-owned enterprise specific, this kind of a Chinese segmentation, I would probably put the word in this way. There are a lot of the good Chinese talents. They know the system very well. So as a foreign company, the most important thing is how do you really empower local talent so they can be on board on the right position, so they can be leveraged to really bring the impact to this kind of a challenge.
You were in China for many years, right?
Yes.
10 years? 15 years?
And 8 years.
8 years. And then you moved from there, from China for China. Now you assume a global role.
Yes.
Can you say a little bit about from China to global? What's the transition like? And what are the differences and what adjustment do you have to make?
First impression when I come to a global role, the definition of fast becomes different. In China, I think I have very clear the definition of the fast, but now there's a very diversified definition of the fast. I would put the definition of the speed is very different by geography. So that's why I always tell my team, don't try to benchmark one nation from the other, but you need to benchmark with ourselves, with the rest of the competitor in this market. Are we much faster than them? If we're much faster, much better, then we'll build, right? So this is probably the things I need to adapt, the first thing. The second thing is China is such a big market. So when you come to the rest of the world, you will find a lot of the middle-sized market, right? So it's a journey for me to learn because even for me, the beginning, I will feel, okay, since I've been in this big market, so I understand how to play ABC. I see the 10 times volume in this market already. But the truth is, there's always a reason behind every story. So I learned to be much more respectful, to understand each cultures and each business context behind. I think that one is also a very crucial lesson for me because, when it exists, there is a reason. Just because you don't know that, so if you feel, oh, there's a small size, it should be easy. Sometimes small doesn't mean easy. Small, sometimes there's something, if you don't understand this, there's still some beautiful things behind. Okay, so that's probably the second thing. And also the third thing is probably the multi-global culture, the multi-global leadership, the multicultural thought. In China, or even, let's say, in most of the North Asian cultural context, in my personal perception, we overvalue the power of the result. But in the global business context, the power of influence equal to power of the result plus the power of the communication. So here we need to have a much more sophisticated and much more pragmatic way to learn how to communicate, align with each other.
So it's not only the power of result, but it's also the power of communication.
Yes. So the result, communication plus together equal to the influence.
As a global leader, what do you think are the important traits or characteristics that a person should have? Let's say, Schneider wants to send someone to assume global roles. So what are the qualities they look at?
The first thing is probably the cultural difference awareness, because I see some very, very strong leader locally. They have a story in their system to believe, since we were so successful here, I can copy this elsewhere as well, which may not always be right. I would say the first one is really aware. This kind of cultural difference means the logic difference, means the business impact difference are over there. Because only when they are aware, they have the chance to adapt themselves accordingly. The second one, to pick up global leaders, I think the global leadership is even more challenging than local leadership. I always like to say, 80% global leader fails, not because of the global, but because of the leadership. Because of you originally have some weak spot in your leadership, but those leadership weak spot was hidden perfectly. Maybe in your country, the power business is large, it's very collectivism. So they are being hidden by your cultural environment, but they're gonna be amplified in other environment. So your issue is not really the global. Your issue is your leadership, but the global complex environment amplify your problem. So the second portion, I would probably think when we pick up the global, we will look at those leadership fundamentals, because that's probably the fundamental topic. Yeah, that's the two things.
Someone who is very competent, very capable in the local environment, a very good person, technically, professionally. But without the cultural awareness, that would be difficult for this person to function in a different environment. That's number one. Number two, if the person leadership fundamental is not strong, this person to put in a different environment, his weakness could be exposed. You cannot hide. So leadership fundamental is actually also very important.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Melton, thank you.